Welcome to the Dire Wolf Show, where we believe that America is exceptional and that our constitutional rights should never be infringed. I am Dire Wolf. On our show, we bring you the truth and debunk fake news. If you love laughing at the insanity of the regressive left, sit back and relax. Boy, do I have a show for you.
Welcome back, Wolfpack. Dire Wolf here. And we have election week and counting.
Well, no more counting now.
Well, I mean, it is, even though it's being called, the drama is far from over. So, of course, alongside me is my co-host, Fox Trevize. How you doing, buddy?
Ask me a different question.
Yeah. It's been a ride, but I want to thank everyone who makes this show possible. It's you guys. I blame you for this. As those who make this show possible are the people who donate to us financially. Thank you very much, Kaylet, Oremain, Nathan, Cameron, Touch Freak, Slowpoke, Thundra Erection, who is female, by the way, so I hear, and the White Lion. Also, a special thank you to Timberwolf for your donations and boosting us on the Discord. I was also on the Discord earlier today. I spoke to some of you guys. More of you guys should try that. I should do it more often. But
it's not really that great, guys.
No, it's the best thing on earth. I'm lying. So you can also support us by liking, sharing, subscribing, and all those good things. Send us bits. And, of course, use Streamlabs, not Super Chats, because we don't have Super Chats. It's through YouTube. So, what is our first... do we have a funny clip for today? Yes, we do.
Not a funny clip, Dyer. It's a very serious clip, and we have to... we'll preface it with that we agree entirely, and along with the great and venerable Gadsad, we also... will be submitting to our new overlords, and not only do we not support Trump, we never supported Trump. But I think Stad said it the best here. So we'll listen to his apology, which we'll all have to be making very soon. You're still going to go up against the wall, but at least your soul will be cleansed by the Democrat Party. Let's listen to what Stad has to say.
Big fan of cleansing.
Also solutions. Oh, great, yeah. Great Twitter. Twitter's just chugging along here. Let's see if... Why is there no volume on anything? There we go.
This is Dr. Gadsad. I wanted to publicly repudiate any connections that anyone may think that I may or may not have had in the past with Donald Trump. I now recognize that he is worse than Osama bin Laden. He is worse than Attila the Hun. He is worse than the Khmer Rouge. He is worse than ISIS. He is worse than Al-Qaeda. He is worse than... Who else is he worse? Hitler, of course, Adolf Hitler. He is worse than all of them combined. He has put an end to democracy. He has been an existential threat. We almost ushered nuclear holocaust. He has started innumerable internal wars. He has destroyed democracy. And I simply hope that my good friends within the IDW will put in a good word for me before I am sent to Gulag 13 for re-education of the insane. Thank you. I hate you, Trump. I love you, Joe.
So that was in response to... again, the quote-unquote intellectual dark web, which we've tangled with them on the show before here. Some of them are less intellectual than others, and anytime somebody is declaring themselves an intellectual, you know that they're not. But Sam Harris, who's I guess a popular. He's popular. I think that's about all I can say. I know people think he's an intellectual, but I will stick with that he's popular. Sam Harris said last week that in addition to all the other things that Trump was worse than, he also said that Trump was worse than Osama bin Laden, who murdered 3,000 Americans in New York one time.
Yeah, some people did something, didn't they?
Yeah, some people did something. And this is also in reference to AOC, who we'll be talking about later today. About she wants to start making lists, which we've heard from the left before. But it's really funny anytime the Democrats start talking about wanting to make lists and keep track of political dissidents and maybe keep tabs on them. It tends to be
she definitely is a communist.
Yeah, it tends to be a hallmark of leftist governments and leftists, but we'll say that for later. But there's been a lot of good jokes like this about people who are going to be again. There's that one guy a few weeks ago said that he wanted to do truth and reconciliation councils, which is what they did in South Africa after
Which
apartheid.
are great, by the way.
Yeah, as after South Africa got rid of apartheid, they hauled all the old leaders into, well, not just the old leaders, anybody who supported, basically everybody who was white. They hauled them in front of these councils, and they had to do struggle sessions where they apologized for their existence and everything that they've ever done, and disavow all the previous administrations. And there's, again, I won't call them intellectuals, but there is popular people on the left who have been suggesting, not suggesting, they've actually been calling for literally making lists of dissidents, literally having truth and reconciliation councils. And we've all remember those videos that Veritas had from earlier in the year from Antifa, where they wouldn't mind to see us in some camps and stuff. Just to make sure that we don't have a fascist uprising, we have to keep lists of dissidents, send them to re-education camps, and make them publicly disavow everything.
You got to have a fascist uprising to prevent fascist uprisings.
Yeah, it's and make sure you use the power of the state to do it, and make sure that the power of the state is unified with the power of the large businesses. That's the only way to stop fascism.
Oh my! I wonder if they ever think about the words coming out of their mouth and ever realize
they don't.
The historical parody. The thing, how these same things have been said and done in the past, and how they sound just like the Nazis. By the way, the Truth and Reconciliation Councils did not work out well in Africa. If you look at Africa, I would not want to model our society after that. They still have people killing people for their race. Just it's white people almost exclusively.
Yes, and like all socialist countries, they somehow have a universal problem of not being able to figure out farming. There's a lot of other stuff that they can't figure out, but farming is the very specific primary thing that they are never able to figure out, and it's the thing that they always talk about is it's the workers, they're going to be able to take over the farms, and just it should be their labor, and then they inevitably just run out of food because nobody knows how to run a farm, and they killed all the farmers.
Just because you are a farmman doesn't mean you know how to operate a farm.
Which
there's a lot of
if you do want to feel good about yourself, though, go look at an electoral map by county, and think about where the food comes from.
Yeah, so we're secure.
All right. Well, we did, just to premise the show, we did a record amount of not any preparation for this show.
Yes,
we have a few topics. Yeah, we have a few topics to go over, but this is going to be a very free-wheeled show. We got a few videos and tweets to pull up, but other than that, there was not a lot of motivation to do anything today. Also because when we even thought about starting to write the script this morning, Joe Biden hadn't been declared president by everybody in the media. And so I was just looking at that, and I was like, okay, stuff's going to be changing all day. There's no point in writing a script.
But we know the things we're going to be talking about here without having to write it out. We looked up some articles which we're going to be responding to, but we know our opinions about it and don't need to really parse it out too much on the page. So first story. Story A.
Oh, I do got to respond to chat, though. Voracious Blackston asked, so Anything happened this week? No, it was a pretty boring news week, to be honest, which is why we didn't have anything to write about. So it's
yeah, that's what happened.
It's self-explanatory. So thank you for asking, though. It's yeah.
I think there's some sort of like a political thing going on, but no one paid attention to it.
There's something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard.
There was a record 146 million people that voted. That's the record.
It was a lot of people.
That's more people voted for Biden, apparently, quote unquote, than voted for Obama
By about 10 million.
Yeah, and also 10 million more than voted for Hillary. Now I get the whole Hillary thing. Like, everyone hated Hillary, but look at the crowds that came out for Obama and the crowds that came out for Trump, and then look at the 5 people that came out for Biden every single time, the same 5 people, and tell me, do you really believe the enthusiasm for Biden is more?
Well, so they what the theory is. So it's really hard to talk about voter motivations because obviously you're leading into a discussion about fraud. And so I see a lot of people trying to do analyses on like, oh, well, it kind of makes sense that this group of people would vote for Biden, or it does, or it doesn't, or maybe I know Ben Shapiro this week was really going out on a limb, and he said that he was looking at the statistics for Wisconsin where there was 70,000 Biden votes where it was only filled out for the presidential race and it didn't fill out any of the down ballot stuff, and then there was 30,000 for Trump that had not the president filled out, but they had a Republican all-down ticket filled out. And so Ben was taking that to, in his opinion, say, well, the American people are fine with the Republicans, but they just don't like Trump. Like, that's why they're either voting against him, or if they aren't really willing to pull the lever for Biden, they are going to go vote for a Republican ticket. And I don't know if that's true or not, but that would imply, like, to make that assumption implies that you think that the vote had integrity. And realistically, even if all the votes were valid, Joe Biden only would have won by a couple of thousand votes in a couple of states. I mean, it's going to come down to, I think probably at the end of the count, it's going to be less than 100,000 votes spread out across like 2 or 3 states, where those states were like very narrowly flipped over. So I don't think that Biden winning necessarily says anything about the collective will of the American people. Now, the voting turnout does say something about just America's gone crazy and finally has decided that they wanted to vote, when typically we have extremely low voter turnout. Hence the record turnout this year. But it's hard to say what it means other than just saying that there was a lot of people that voted.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. But what I do know is that there is enough going on with incompetence, failures in the system, or outright fraud that for the sake of maintaining confidence in the system, those irregularities need to be investigated, right? No matter the outcome. I'm not saying it has to be investigated so Trump can win. But I can tell you the evidence that's available of fraud is going to make people lose confidence in the system unless the investigation is able to show that whatever outcome there is actually accurate and after the investigation of those instances. So let's go into the first story.
Well, see, actually, Darius, so before we do that, though, I just want to point out that it's not – the thing that affects election integrity isn't the possibility of fraud or mistakes or glitches or whatever. Those sorts of things don't affect what?
It's the not dealing with them.
Well, no, hold on. I'm telling a joke and you're ruining it.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's none of those things that actually affect the election integrity. Things like miscounting ballots or fraudulent mail-in votes or anything like that. That doesn't affect the election integrity. You asking questions about those things that decreases voter confidence, and that is what affects election integrity. So, all of these things where there's these weird glitches, and there's the weird spike in Wisconsin, and all these votes that were counted in the middle of the night, and these ballots that they keep finding all over the place. Asking questions about did those have a proper chain of custody? Is it okay if we have Republican poll watchers when we're supposed to legally be allowed to have that? Asking those sorts of questions, that is what causes a drop in election integrity. It's not the fact that all those things are happening. It's just the mere question. So Dyer, you're really the bad guy in all this.
You're saying that. You're saying that because that's actually an argument being made by the left-wing media right now.
Yes.
They not jokingly are saying that people saying, hey, we have evidence of voter fraud or miscounting of ballots or illegal ballots being cast.
Or even just a question about the process.
Right. Like, just questioning that at all or asking for something to look into to ensure the integrity of the election, they're saying those questions are what is threatening the integrity of the election.
The question itself, not the possibility that the election got stolen. That doesn't affect the election at all. You asking the question is what the problem is.
That is insane.
Maybe they reviewed the last 4 years of them asking the Russia question, and maybe they realized, oh wow, we actually decreased the integrity of the election by continuously bringing that up. And they're like, you know what? We were wrong.
There's a difference, and it's very important. The difference is
evidence.
Evidence. If you make an accusation on no evidence, like you're saying that Trump was colluding with the Russians and he stole the election, and there was zero evidence of it, and after it's been proven, and it's false, you continuing to say it as if it's a fact. All of that does reduce confidence in the system because you're convincing people that it allowed someone to steal the election. Whereas in this case, people on the right, and Trump specifically, is saying, we have actual evidence. We're providing you video evidence, documented evidence of a possibility that our election has been tampered with or has had a lack of integrity. And if you don't investigate that, that is going to result in a reduction of integrity to the election, a reduction in confidence of the election. So what I guess they're actually guilty of what they're accusing Trump of, which is Operation Normal for them. But so the first story is that they have been continually in article after article after article saying there is no evidence of fraud. Trump asserts there has been voter fraud without evidence. They said over and over again. The Atlantic published a story, I think today, it might have been yesterday, saying the damage of Trump's voter fraud allegations can't be undone. They're saying that Trump is damaging the confidence in our system by saying that we should investigate possible threats to the integrity of our system.
We've seen this basically during the entirety of the Joe Biden campaign, especially, but we have this not just the conspiracy theory media against Trump the last 4 years. We then had during the Biden campaign the anti-media, where normally you would assume the media's job is to ask questions and go investigate things. But over the last 2 years, we've seen the media turn into anti-media, where their goal is to cover up as much as possible, to be as incurious as possible. So asking the question about voter fraud, the media doesn't even want the question asked. They don't want an investigation. They have no curiosity. And anybody having curiosity must be suppressed. Anybody who's curious about the Hunter Biden thing and the China deals, they don't want to investigate that and clear the name. It's anybody who's curious about that. You're the enemy and must be suppressed. It's the anti-media. It's the opposite of what journalism is meant to be.
This isn't about trying to make sure that Trump wins, though obviously I would want him to win. But even if Trump were to have won and there was legitimate concern and evidence available that that there was fraud during the election where he won, I would still want to investigate it, because what I don't want is an asterisk on my guy's presidency.
I'm kind of happy that they investigated the Russiagate, the first time, maybe not the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth time.
How they did it was wrong. The investigation wasn't, in itself, would not be wrong.
But it proved the investigation cleared his name.
Yes.
So the second one and the third one and the fourth one, and the fifth one.
Right. So if the FBI had done a legitimate, correct investigation that wasn't biased, they would have received the allegation, and because they already had information that it was not true, they could have immediately said, "We investigated. We have this information. Those allegations are false." It would have been done in a week, right? That would have been an allegation of possible that affected election integrity, and then a proper investigation and resolution. That would have been perfect, right? I would have no problem with the FBI coming out with the evidence saying that actually no, that did not happen. I would similarly, if these are allegations that are credible, and everything we can do to investigate it should be done to make sure everyone knows that our elections are secure. If you don't investigate them, everyone is going to wonder, at least everyone who's on the right is going to wonder whether or not it was stolen from Trump and whether or not their vote actually matters. And if people start thinking that their votes, like the voting system doesn't work and that their vote doesn't matter, then they will resort to other means. It's very important that people maintain their faith in the electoral system, because it is the way we ensure we have peaceful transitions of power. That's the only way. So just to debunk this lie that there is no evidence of fraud, we're just going to do a short list of some of the fraud we have evidence of that you can see for yourself, and I encourage you to look up if you haven't already seen it. First one is James O'Keefe has multiple videos, and in these videos they include, but are not limited to, a man paying for ballots and collecting hundreds of ballots, some of them not filled out, and him bragging about it, and him getting paid by a Democrat politician to do so, most likely. That last part was an assumption, that being paid by a Democrat politician. Now, he was being paid, but by who was the question. We also have a woman in one of his videos doing ballot harvesting, which is illegal, and telling people how to vote and helping them fill out their ballot. We also... What the fuck is that?
That's my comment on it. So yeah, and we got these videos from James O'Keefe, and there's much more stuff we're gonna go through here in a bit, but you got actual video evidence of people going around and committing actual election fraud on camera, going around filling in fake ballots, having dozens, hundreds of ballots, talking about getting paid per ballot. And nobody does anything. You don't have the FBI in there. They don't care. You don't got the media in there. They say, don't ask the question. Again, this video of somebody stealing the, getting paid to go around and, help change votes and go collect, go do illegal ballot harvesting, all that stuff, and doing these things for money and filling out fake ballots. That being on video doesn't affect election integrity. You asking the question of like, hey, is anyone looking into that? That you're the one asking the question. You're the one who's affecting election integrity, and you can't get the media won't do it. The local police aren't doing anything about it. The FBI is not doing anything about it. What I think O'Keefe should do, maybe this is what the Republicans need to do more generally, is when you see a crime like this, draw a fucking noose on one of those goddamn ballots, and the FBI will airdrop 15 agents in less than 60 seconds. They will airdrop them directly to wherever you're at. Just draw a noose on the ballot, and they will just airdrop in FBI agents, because that's what they did for Smollett, for Bubbleette, whatever the fuck his name was, the NASCAR guy. The entire federal government will mobilize. You even have FBI agents that went for Joy Reid because she wrote some homophobic crap on her blog 15 years ago, and somebody found it recently, like with the last 2 years, and she said, "Oh, somebody hacked it," and they actually had 10 FBI agents in there looking for it. You had the 10 FBI agents in there looking for her, because nobody actually hacked it. You had the same thing with the guy who was going to host one of the presidential debates, the one that got canceled, when he accidentally, instead of DMing somebody, he tweeted out something that was supposed to be a DM that was derogatory of Trump the week before he was supposed to moderate the debate, and then he said, "Oh, it got hacked," and then the FBI came in and was going to investigate it, and he had to fess up because he didn't want to have a false FBI claim. But no, anything else that happens that's like a minor slight against somebody on the left. Just you looked at them wrong, and you have the entire Hoover building is mobilized. The whole top floor is focused on you being even just minorly slighted, or you think you got slighted, or you're going to make up that you got slighted, which is what all these cases were. The FBI will be there with enough agents to field a football team. And you got O'Keefe over there. He's like, "Hey, I got like a video of somebody, breaking 16 different federal election laws, and it's kind of a problem. And they're also state laws are breaking." And the FBI is just like, "Huh? That's fake news. It's ridiculous." So, moral of the story is, if you see something that is election fraud, draw a fucking noose on it. The FBI will be there just as quick as it can be.
Yep. So other stories, we have Trump's poll watchers, which he's legally allowed to have, and it's actually very important because what the poll watchers do is they actually watch the counting and tabulation of the votes, and they make sure that the poll workers, which are volunteers, that they are not changing the votes, that they're actually counting them properly. And if both candidates involved, or all candidates involved, have their watchers there, then they can have feel secure knowing that no one was cheating, or at least the cheating wasn't caught by their guy watching, right? So at different poll locations in some of the states that had anomalous counts, we're not allowing Trump's poll watchers in to watch the count. In fact, they're putting poster board up on the windows so no one could see in as well. They were trying to avoid transparency. They were trying to avoid letting them have any kind of accountability. And in some places where they were allowed in, they were kept at such a distance where it was not practical for them to actually see what was happening with the ballots.
You also had on election night, you guys may remember if you stuck with us pretty late, that we went to bed thinking, oh, okay, Trump's got some of these states pretty well secured here. And, some of the key swing states, for whatever reason, had said that they were done counting for the night. And everybody was like, come on. All right, well, I guess they're done. So, everybody went to bed. And you wake up the next morning, 2 hours later, and sometime between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. Eastern, all of a sudden, Trump lost all of his leads, and then he lost it in Wisconsin, and we're hearing stories, and we get videos coming out of people who were poll watchers that were told, okay, go home, come back tomorrow, we're done counting for the night. Somehow during that time, they were still counting. And then you've got videos from the parking lots of, vans showing up with boxes being taken in and out of these buildings. And, there's some questions to be had about what, then again, that's what the poll watchers are supposed to be there for, is if a poll watcher sees, hey, why are people bringing in a couple of boxes of random papers? Can we take a look at that? And that's what the poll watchers are supposed to do, so that you can prevent stuff from again, quote unquote, finding ballots or having 100,000 ballots be counted in a half hour that are exclusively for Biden and none for Trump, even though that's statistically impossible. So you got stuff like that the poll watchers can kind of keep track of if they're there. But we had a few nights where I think it was 2 nights in a row where they were falsely told that they could go home, or that they should go home, that they were done counting for the day, even though counting was continuing. You had a few places in Philadelphia where they were counting in unapproved locations, like basements, that were not like where they were supposed to be in the main counting area. You had, again, like Dyer was saying, people being held back very far away from the polls. There was one I think it was also in Philadelphia, the Trump team had gotten a court order that had forced it's ridiculous to even have to have a court order for this. You just think that that's how the election works. But a court order that said that the Trump poll watchers were allowed to be there and they should be let in. And so they were forced to allow the Trump election watchers to come in, and then they moved the counting area back so that it was still the same distance away, but they were technically following the court order. It's just a lot of games like that.
Right. So this, and also we had on social media, we had posts from a poll worker saying that she planned on throwing out Trump votes, bragging about it. And then when people started sharing it, she deleted the post, but it was saved. So we have the possibility, and this was in one of the states where there was very anomalous counts. So we also had news of a software glitch where we had some voting machines that were reporting votes for Trump as votes for Biden.
I got a whole thing on that.
Well, you'll go into more detail later on, but that is one of the anomalies that needs to be investigated and not just shrugged off. We also had mail-in ballots being found and discarded many times.
Somehow always the Trump ones were being discarded, and then somehow only the Biden ones were ever found.
Yeah, and one of the part of the problems of the forced mail-in voting, where people were sent ballots they didn't ask for, was you flood the market with lots and lots and lots of ballots that people could gather, even though the person didn't intend on voting themselves. But actors could gather them up and then submit them for whoever they want, and that context, when you have evidence of political work agents going and buying ballots from people and collecting ballots from people that were blank, it allowed them to, whatever fraud they already were doing, to be more successful at. They were able to gather more ballots. And then when you ask people to go home, which means all the poll watchers left and all the counters left, and then suddenly we have all these ballots arriving, when you know that people we have all these extra ballots out there, and we have people that are trying to gather them up, and then they all end up being for one person. All those circumstances are fishy enough that if you don't investigate, it's going to make people pretty darn sure you're trying to cover up that you stole the election.
My favorite found ballots was in Virginia. They had it's for one of the state races, the state house. Republican won the state house, and then they found ballots on a flash drive, which
Can you explain that to me?
So I was trying to figure this out with one of my friends a while ago, or earlier this week when we first heard it. And I know what you might be thinking is like, oh, like was it what was it just that they had put the flash drive in the vote machine or whatever, like that was just like the count that was held on the flash drive? No, that's not what they said. Maybe that's what it was. But the way that it was reported on, the way the Virginia AG said, was that there was ballots found on a flash drive, which I can only imagine means that they took paper ballots and just stuffed them into a flash drive. If it had been, we missed one of the vote totals on one of the machines, that might have been a more proper way to say it. But just this idea that there was ballots on a flash drive doesn't quite compute. It is possible that they were trying to use some kind of quantum teleporter technology, and the pattern buffer for the ballots is on that flash drive. And if they just plugged it back into a teleporter array, it would just pop out. I'm not sure how that works, but that's what the Virginia government said, was that they just found them on this, just found them, and they're all for the Democrat too, and it flipped that House seat from Republican back to Democrat. Again, we never see, never heard any of these stories about caches of Trump votes being found. It's statistically implausible that there would never be any lost Trump ballots. Only ever Biden ballots that were lost.
Yeah. So we also have proof of thousands of dead people voting. You can look up, there's some videos of this where you can look up whether or not someone's voted, and it's showing that individuals who are dead had voted in this election. We have proof that thousands of people who voted in states that they are not residents of. There's enough evidence here, solid evidence, documented evidence and video, to say that because we're talking about thousands of votes that could be thrown out here, but Trump in some areas only won by a few thousand votes, or lost. Biden only won by a few thousand votes. This just very easily could change the result of the election. So this needs to be addressed, because no one's going to believe that the election process works if we don't.
Yep. Let's see here. So, finish off reading that, and we'll jump into this Gizmodo debunk here.
We also have in some states they counted votes after that arrived after the day of the election. So that is currently against the law that they're supposed to be voting on that day, and some states changed the rules for their state, they're not following the state's rules, but the governors had permitted it, but the state legislators had not permitted it, and it's the state legislators that actually run the elections. So some states went against their own laws by counting votes that came in after the election. So Trump's argument, and I would agree with it, so because we have to all be playing by the same rules here, is that you can't just change the rules without actually going through the proper process, and that those ballots that were mailed in after the election day shouldn't count.
Yep. But once again, having questions about, okay, well, what was the law in that state? Were they allowed to do that? Was anybody checking in on that? You asking the question, that is affecting election integrity. In fact, the more you ask that question, the less accurate that the election became. It's your fault. It's not the fact that Democrats run sloppy elections, or that the states are just changing their laws willy-nilly, or not enforcing rules that were on the books, or letting the Joe Biden campaign go out and harvest ballots in Georgia after the election day count was over. No, none of that affects election integrity. You asking the question affects election integrity. So just remember, you're the bad guy. Yeah, I probably am a little bit stuffy there, Shaman King. Thanks for pointing it out. Now I'm self-conscious. Let's see here. So Gizmodo tried to debunk this Michigan voter count thing. So as Dyer was saying, there was this glitch in Michigan where it was a 6,000 vote swing in one of the counties, where the software had just magically turned 3,000 Trump votes into 3,000 Biden votes. It was really crazy, really wild. We actually got a video here of the Michigan, the GOP chair. She gave a statement on it yesterday. It's hard to believe it was yesterday. This week was like very long and very fast, and I'm just exhausted from it. But let's take a watch here.
If all this wasn't enough, in Antrim County, ballots were counted for Democrats that were meant for Republicans, causing a 6,000 vote swing against our candidates. The county clerk came forward and said tabulating software glitched and caused a miscalculation of the votes. Since then, we have now discovered that 47 counties use this same software in the same capacity. Antrim County had to hand count all of the ballots, and these counties that use this software need to closely examine their results for similar discrepancies. The people of Michigan deserve a transparent and open process.
Now, from what was said in other source material about this, was that the election total from the machines was put onto, it was grouped throughout the county onto a single machine, and then the count was saved on I think they said it was on magnetic tape even, which is, I don't even know where you find magnetic tape readers anymore. But what they said was that the count was accurate when they tabulated it at the county level, but when they had submitted it to whatever the centralized state was, the tape, when they plugged it into the new computer to tabulate the whole state together, that was when it switched. So it was correct, and then somewhere along the trail of driving it throughout the state, it magically transformed where it was Trump votes, and then just magically they became Biden votes, and it swung at 6,000 votes. So a lot of people have been trying to debunk this, and a lot of programmers have been chuckling at the idea that it might be difficult to program something that counts things. But you know, I do AI research. I do software engineering and math and all that kind of good stuff. So well, I'll say my commentary here for a bit. Let's go into Gizmodo's debunk though. So Gizmodo said, quote, that it was a conspiracy theory, and that this conspiracy theory was, again, Gizmodo quote, bullshit, every word of it. Except for then Gizmodo, after they said that this conspiracy theory was bullshit, and again, they literally wrote the word bullshit in their article, real top-notch journalism there. They then went on to describe in the rest of the article how, yes, the software did switch the votes, but it was only because they hadn't updated the election software. So Gizmodo saying like, no, this is a complete, the idea that the votes were switched is a total conspiracy theory. It's bullshit. It didn't switch the votes, except for like it did, but like it only did it because the software wasn't updated.
So it did, but it didn't, but it totally did.
So like it's factually correct, but it's morally wrong. That it was only because it was a software glitch. So like, you know, I mean, how can you just sit there and be like, okay, like this whole thing is complete bullshit. It did happen, but it only happened because it was broken. Like, well,
then it did happen.
Yeah, it did happen. So you know, again, like I said, I'm a software engineer. I do a lot of work with computer science and mathy-wathy kinds of stuff. So, you know, I think you guys might not have realized this. You know, anybody's not quite techie, you know, or doesn't deal with programs and code a lot. You guys might not have realized it, but we've actually made a lot of advancements in computer science recently. Computer science and AI, we actually figured out a new way of counting. It turns out that we have been counting stuff wrong the whole time. Like all of human history, we've been doing it wrong. And it's really wild when you think about it, that like we got to the modern world and we're counting everything wrong. So, you know, who knew? But like I said, recently we came up with a new, like the correct way of counting. And that's why this election software needed an update, is because it had to get updated with the new counting method. See, if you use the old counting method, and I bet you guys didn't even know that. I bet Dyer didn't know that we have a new counting method now. You know, thank you, science. But this election software, it must have had the old version of counting in there, which, as I just said, is the wrong way. We didn't know it was, but it was the wrong way.
It's Common Core.
Yeah, exactly. So now that if you missed the update for the counting software, it seems reasonable. Well, it wouldn't know the correct way to count. It's counting with the old method. So it definitely makes sense to me that this wouldn't have happened if the software had been updated, because the update for sure definitely 100% had that new counting method in it, and it definitely wasn't something else that was wrong with it.
Yeah, I don't buy that for a second, and I don't think anyone's going to. And there's a lot of other states and other counties that use the same machines and the same software, and particularly the problem was like what, 47 states or 47 counties. I mean, that had the same
47
software.
counties, 29 other states.
Yeah. So if they found it in this one, and then it's very possible they would have found it in the others, but they haven't looked into it, at least they haven't investigated it yet. So how many other votes also were changed? If you go to 6,001 county, then 47 county, 6,000 times 47, we're looking at what could be a very big problem.
Well, and here, Dyer, have you thought about this? So the software, if it didn't get the update for this year, it counted them wrong. Are they saying that it was counting them wrong all the previous years? Is that what we're supposed to take away from this? Is that the kind of hidden wisdom there when they say, oh, well, it was only because the software wasn't updated? What do you mean because the software wasn't updated? Obviously, that whole bit before was a total joke and taking a piss on this. We have not come up with a new method of counting. Stuff counts the same way that it did the last election cycle. So if you had a piece of software that couldn't count last election and it needed an update to be able to count this election, are they saying that all of the previous elections that the software tabulated were wrong? Is that what we're supposed to take away from this? Because, like we said, there's 47 other Michigan counties that use the software, and 29 other states. What do you think, Dad? Do you think we've been doing it wrong for the last however long they've been using that software?
I mean, I'd be concerned to think that we didn't know how to count, but I'm a little worried that might be the case. So how many other elections were affected? You know how we'd find out this answer, Fox? You know how we'd know?
Curiosity.
Actually having a news media that cared about reporting the news and cared about protecting our electoral process and our democracy and wasn't in the pocket of one of the political parties.
I just love this, that the news media will concede anything and sacrifice anything because they're hypocrites. So if they if they concede a point one day, it doesn't matter. They can just take it back up and make it their primary life goal the next day because they have no sense of like hypocrisy. So it doesn't really matter if they just change their direction the next day. But Gizmodo is willing to concede that the last like probably 4 elections across all these states were mistabulated because the old software version couldn't count them. They're willing to concede all of the previous elections just so that they can be right this time. Isn't that amazing?
Pretty short-sighted.
That's pretty amazing. Okay, so Gizmodo went on to say that this so-called glitch, they called it a so-called glitch, even though they had already conceded that it did count them wrong, it just needed a software update. So they said that it was a conspiracy theory that was pushed by Breitbart, even though they're also technically pushing the conspiracy theory because even though they're saying it's a conspiracy theory, they are in the article literally describing what the glitch was. And then they said, quote, "The glitch was not a programming error. It only happened because they hadn't updated the software." Now, I'm only a lowly AI engineer. I don't know how software works, but it is my understanding that a software update updates the code of the software. So if there was a problem caused by not updating the software, one could assume that there was a problem with the code.
You would think that. But that's only because you're a Nazi.
So this Gizmodo article is really incredible because I really wanted to go into it and like find out like, wow, like I want to know. Yeah, I know Gizmodo is a bit absolute garbage. In theory, they're supposed to be a good like tech news site, but they're just not. But I was really hoping to get like a good rundown of like, okay, like here is the techie engineering perspective of like what happened, what went wrong, and why it's not a problem. And the entire article is it's just going back and forth between paragraphs. They're saying Republicans are crazy, they're bullshit, they're full of bullshit, it's conspiracy theories. And then the next paragraph will say, well, it did happen, but it like didn't really happen, except for it did happen. It's just not a big deal because, you know, it's you know, it just happens. But you guys are full of bullshit for even asking about it and bringing it up. It's not a programming error. It's just a code error. It's not a code error. It's just a programming error. It's a conspiracy theory. It happened, but they fixed it. Another great one was that they also said that the miscount never actually made it into the official count, but that was only because the county took it off of their official website when they realized that it was wrong. So it did make it into the official results. They pulled it down, but it was in the official results for a little while. And they're saying like, well, it never actually made it in the official results because they changed it. Well, no, they fixed it. It did make it into the results. It was, again, like I said, it is just paragraph going back and forth between this never happened, here's how it happened. This never happened, here's how it happened.
So what bothers me is, so they caught it on that one county. But there's all the other counties, they have not looked into it or, you know, reversed it. So, yeah, sure, you caught it on this one, but the reason why it's worth investigating is because the problem probably may still exist. It didn't just end there because one county was good and caught it. The problem that caused it has not been solved.
Yeah, and so you've got which I'm gonna pull pull up here in a second. You had that weird jump in Wisconsin. No, actually, it was in Pennsylvania. There was this weird jump of like 150,000 votes, and everybody was like, it was 150,000 votes just for Biden. Now, there was another one of those in Wisconsin. The Wisconsin one ended up sticking, but the Pennsylvania one, a bunch of conservatives were like, what in the hell is this 15,000 votes or 150,000 votes for Biden? What is this? And it was so nuts, and it was coming out of this like little teeny tiny county. And everybody on Twitter was asking about it, and Twitter started blocking these things down. You had like mainstream, I think it was like ABC and NBC actually had talked about that specific incident, and we're saying like, oh, you got all these conspiracy theories about it's election fraud or whatever. Well, it turns out that all of the questioning about it was accurate, and that county had added an extra decimal point to it by accident, and it was really supposed to be 15,000 for Biden, and they typed in 150,000 for Biden. So that was an actual problem where people looking at it said, hey, that doesn't make sense. I got a question about it. And the media said, don't ask questions. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And they were the ones that were wrong. Again, they've got this idea that you asking the question, the fact that somebody accidentally, by an order of magnitude, reported an extra 140,000 votes for Biden in a state that Trump is going to lose by like 10,000 votes, that doesn't affect the election integrity. You asking, hey, how does a county of 20,000 people generate 150,000 votes? You asking that question, that decreases election integrity. It's your fault. You're the bad guy.
Yeah. And because someone asked that question, they actually looked into it and they solved the problem. Someone raised the red flag, saying, hey, that doesn't look right, and they fixed the problem. So that person who raised the red flag and said, hey, that's a weird number coming out of that small county, are they also causing harm to our electoral process? Are they damaging the integrity of the system because they asked the question?
Only Democrats or only Republicans can affect election integrity.
So, okay, because it wasn't a Republican. Well, we don't know that, but if it's a Democrat, can they actually care about there being a secure election? Okay, I get it. That sounds sensible.
Yeah. So you got the. Let me get these pulled up here. Where'd the other one go? There it is. Yeah. So you had this other interesting thing in Wisconsin, and this one's not been discovered yet, but this is on election night, and you can see this. Oh, wait, you guys can't see it. Now you can see it. This is a graph of the votes coming in over the time period on election night. And you can see here, so you got 6 a.m. and 12 a.m. So, this little section here represents 6 hours. And, it's kind of hard to tell, but this sudden spike for the Democrat votes, that seems to be in the 4 o'clock, maybe 4 and 5 o'clock a.m. region there. And like I said, you'll remember on election night, they said at 4 a.m., we're done counting for the night. Everybody go home. We'll try again tomorrow. And all of a sudden, so everybody goes to bed, and then all of a sudden, just as soon as I say that they stop counting, here's this giant fucking spike of Biden votes that come out of nowhere. None of them for Trump. And I really loved this graph has become a meme now, and I think that's the only way that we're going to keep that alive. This is the basic shape of it, which remember that shape. I would like to incorporate that into as many things over the next 4 years as I possibly can. It's nice that it makes a cute little F for fraud. And by far, the best one I've seen so far is this, because this cartoon really captures the election, where you got Trump is doing his best. He's actually putting in the work. He's jumping real high, and he's making it. He cleared the poll, and you got Biden. He just can't quite get it, and just jumps right over top of it. Not a problem. But it's just you see stuff like that, and there's questions about that. So we saw another one of those spikes in Pennsylvania, like I said, and just asking the question. Conservatives got berated. Twitter shut them down. Facebook shut them down. You weren't allowed to talk about it. And then it turns out, there was a problem. There was a problem. And Twitter doesn't get in trouble for for that. Twitter wasn't reducing election integrity by helping cover up the fact that Biden was getting an extra times 10 for his votes in a county. That's not on Twitter. Twitter did not decrease election integrity. You did by asking the question and asking, can somebody look into this, please? Ridiculous.
Yeah. And if Biden wins, I can tell you nothing's going to be done about the censorship. This shows how destructive they are. Like, they can prevent something like this being talked about. And if you don't allow people to know things, to talk about things, then those issues don't get addressed, right? They are actively convincing a lot of people that there is no such thing as fraud. The news media is, of course, helping them, or they're helping them. They're in cahoots, to the point where a bunch of the normies who follow my wife, they have heard nothing about any kinds of fraud, even though there's video and documented evidence of said fraud. Social media blocking it out, and news media refusing to cover it and actively calling it disinformation is convincing millions of people there's nothing to look at here. Don't look behind the curtain. Nothing to look at.
I haven't been able to authenticate this one was from this election. It was being pushed around on Twitter, but I couldn't confirm it. But I just thought it was funny because it was it very much summed up the math that they wanted us to believe. Is you see, you got mail-in ballots requested 108,000, mail-in ballots returned 89,000, mail-in ballots counted 142,000. Which I think that could only have been from this election, having that many mail-in ballots. So kind of funny there, but it kind of captures again this idea where the media, we've had a few times where we've done media math on the show, especially again I always bring up that New York Times and I think MSNBC were talking about how $500 million dollars that Bloomberg spent on ads, if he had divided that $500 million by 360 million citizens, he could have given everyone $1 million and still had money to spare. And they just say that, they'll say that before the show, and then somebody from MSNBC will see that on Twitter and be like, wow, that's a really profound point. I want to bring her on the show. And all of the producers will look at that and be like, oh, wow, she's so smart. I can't wait to have the show tonight. And then you'll have the people, the writers, they'll be putting in the teleprompter and be like, wow, that's a really crazy stat. I can't believe that's true. And you have the whole media cannot for the life of themselves figure that out. And yet we're supposed to believe them on anything to do with numbers. Anything to do with numbers.
Yeah, they aren't hired for being smart, Fox. They're hired because they usually look okay, and they'll say what is on a teleprompter.
Well, no, I think it's because they'll cover up for satanic pedophile cults, but
there's that too. It's a requirement at some agencies.
Q says trust the plan. I was looking to see what he was saying about stuff today, and I think it's pretty well confirmed bullshit at this point, because there was he said trust the plan, and everybody's like, are you fucking kidding us? And then he was tweeting out something about oh, it's a good thing when the American people choose new leadership. It was like, oh god. So if you were still not sure if QAnon was a conspiracy theory or not, if it's just somebody fucking around on 4chan, well, I think it's somebody fucking around on 4chan.
Probably. Holy cow.
So we can go on and on and on about different fraud stuff. There's some new people doing statistics on there are statistical methods that you can use for forensic accounting, which everybody suddenly became expert in the last 12 hours. I'll admit I'm also also became expert in it in the last 12 hours. But there's some statistical processes that people are running on the vote counts that are supposed to be able to highlight if there is statistical anomalies that would be indicative of fraud. They're typically used for accounting. I don't know enough about them to say one way or the other if they're authentic or if they're not. What I was seeing on Twitter was a lot of people saying, big words and algorithms and posting graphs that didn't have a lot of context to them and no source material and no showing their work. I'm sure I could have maybe found a few of them if I had dug a little bit deeper, but there's a lot of stuff that we could do. Trump's going to keep fighting us in the courts. I think he should.
Absolutely.
I'll talk about that in a second. But let's be honest, folks. They have been doing this kind of stuff, fraud, doing illegal things all the time, all kinds of different contexts. They're allowed to burn down 100 cities and $5 billion worth of taxpayers' hard-earned goods and services. They can walk around executing us in the streets, and it's no problem. If you defend yourself or smile at them, they will destroy you. If you just happen to want to run against them, they will turn the entire apparatus of the state against you. If you're exercising your religious liberty under the First Amendment, they will weaponize the IRS to come after you. They will lie about you. They will cheat. They will steal everything. Stealing the election's not. It's maybe. Well, it's more obvious this time. I wouldn't even say that's new in kind. It's they've done this before, but they always get away with it. They're going to continue to get away with it, and I know it sucks. So I think on the fraud front, I think that it has to be that we get over it and we have to move on. I know it sucks, and it's not right. That doesn't make it right, but we have to move forward on it. There's a lot of other battles to fight. This one's a really shitty battle to lose, certainly, but we got to move forward. We can't do what the left did. Was the last 4 years where they were saying that it was fraud was obviously made up. Again, we know that from the 7 investigations that showed us that it was made up, but it didn't. The effect of it, whether it was true or wasn't, it was the same effect where it made them, they got stuck for 4 years on the same thing, and it never allowed them to move forward as a base. Meanwhile, their party is running away with this, far left extremist insanity, and their whole base just got locked into this mantra of it was stolen, it was stolen, it was stolen, and they were never able to progress the party anywhere. They went into the midterms with it was stolen, and they had no plans for any kind of kitchen table issues or any kind of anything. All they wanted was impeachment because it was stolen, it was stolen, it was stolen. And then the entire 2 years after the midterms were focused around it was stolen, it was stolen, it was stolen. And they were never able to actually do anything. I mean, now it was a very highly motivating factor for them, whether it was true or not. But it just like froze the party. It just it didn't really freeze them. It froze them from progressing forward into literally any kind of policy. But they got stuck in this idea, and it just kept polarizing and polarizing and polarizing them. So I think that having seen that, having the gift of hindsight on that, it's shitty. It doesn't make it right. But I think that we have to move on from this. And yeah, they stole it, and doesn't make it okay. It doesn't mean we stop fighting, but that can't become the thing that we fight for, or that we get obsessed about for the next 4 years. It has to be that Biden policies are bad, Trump policies were good. America first policies were good, China first policies are bad. Peace in the Middle East is good, wars in the Middle East are bad. Cucking at China is bad, NATO doing their duty is good. That sort of stuff is what we need to focus on. Dropping black unemployment rate to like nothing, having a roaring economy, bringing jobs back. Those are the types of things that we need to focus on. I know it doesn't make it easy, it doesn't make it right, but you're not winning votes by you're not going to be winning votes by explaining to a liberal that the election was stolen from Trump. You might win votes from them by explaining to them that the Republican policies are far superior. And yeah, that's not to say that forget about it. It will
If your
be
goal is to win more votes, then what you're saying is absolutely true. If you have no faith in the system of no matter how many votes you get, that it will never matter, then that's not going to be your goal, right? Now,
well.
obviously, I think that I mean I want our country to stay together. So obviously, I would like us to have faith in the electoral system and thus be focusing on actually achieving things and not being stuck on a single issue. Which, by the way, the Democrats focusing on a false narrative of election fraud from Trump. It wasn't exactly a kitchen table issue. It's not what affected or mattered to most people. So, in particularly a lot of the minority groups that are voted for Trump, Trump actually was the Democrats were doing nothing essentially. Trump was actually doing things that mattered to them, that helped them. So if you still have faith in the system, then we should be focusing on actually achieving things the next 4 years that we're able to, despite the obstacle of Biden. Now, what it should encourage you is that though Biden may win, the Democrats have lost big. They lost a lot of their seats in the House. They now don't have a supermajority in the House. The Republicans are almost even with them, though they still hold it, and the Republicans still have the Senate. But more importantly, they won the majority of the legislators in the states, the houses in the states, which means they have the power to gerrymander for the next election, and if they play their cards right, and if the political trend keep going the current direction, we might be able to take the House and shore up the Senate by a lot, because the next election in 2 years, it's mostly going to be Democrats whose seats are up for a re-election. And they're facing a battle on two fronts. They're facing new, younger Republicans running against them, as well as they're infighting within their own party. There is the progressive side of Democrats that are actually trying to unseat other Democrats.
Yeah, so right now we still don't have the House. When the final votes come in, there's like a very low probability that we would. It doesn't seem likely. It seems like I think the Democrats will keep the House by I think it was like a 5 or 3 majority, which is very thin.
Three more seats, and we'd have it.
Yeah. So, so we got that. Obviously, we got the Supreme Court now. That wasn't up for election, but the Senate is actually going to be very concerning because we have we don't actually technically have 51 right now. So it is 49 or it is 50. What is it? Yeah, it's right now it's a swing. There's one left. There's in Georgia. So in Georgia, we have our 51st Republican senator, but he's not won it yet. They have to go to a runoff, so he has to run again. And he won by 150 or about 100,000 votes. I think it's 90,000 actually. Yeah, it's 90,000 votes in Georgia. But he has to go into a runoff, and that's going to be a very important race. And that needs to be watched like a hawk to make sure there's nothing wrong with it. There's no impropriety with it, no glitches in the software. And if I don't know if anybody watching us lives in Georgia, but Jesus Christ, if you know somebody who lives in Georgia, they need to get out there and vote for that, because we cannot lose that seat. If we lose that seat, the Senate will go 50-50, and the tiebreaker is the vice president, which will be Kamala Harris. So,
or whoever she chooses after Biden kicks the bucket.
Yeah, so that we are hanging on by a thread here. Like, you're not wrong that it's good, Dyer, that we picked up a lot of state stuff, and I'll get into some of that in a second here. But we are one hair away from losing the legislative and the executive, and if they have 2 years of that, we're going to have some problems.
Yes.
If we can keep the Senate with 51, McConnell can just hold everything steady. I'm sure there'll be some Republicans that want to walk across the line on a few things, and we'll have to deal with that as we deal with it, or as it comes up. But the Georgia race is going to be really critical. That's going to be really, really crucial. And I don't want to see – I'm really worried about that. So one of the other reasons why I want to see Trump fight this, but I also would like to have the opportunity to possibly pick up the House this year. And the only way you're going to do that is by dumping resources into trying to do recounts and looking through the votes and stuff like that for these House races. So I think that Trump should do what he can do, and I think Trump should finance his own campaign to fight this for the next 2 months. I don't have any problem with that, but I really think that I hate saying it. You hate conceding territory, and Dyer, you're a military guy. I'm sure you know the theory and the feeling of you got two objectives and you want them both really badly, but you only have the resources for one, and you have to take a look at which one's going to have the bigger bang for the buck and which one's already a lost cause. And I think the presidency is a lost cause, and I think it would be a much better use of the resources of the RNC to dump every dime they can into trying to flip, by any means necessary, 3 more House seats so that we could pick up the House this time, and certainly defending the seats that we already have.
There is, if we do a reasonable investigation into the possible cases of fraud, it will not be the Republicans spending 2 years or 4 years chasing the rabbit, right? Like the Democrats did. They would be chasing this narrative for that 4 years just to use as a political cudgel to try to hurt Biden. They'd actually be doing an investigation with an actual goal that is reasonable. And I'm sure they will find the conclusion to that investigation within a couple of months. So the investigation, you're right. The Republicans shouldn't be stuck on their narrative of election fraud for the next 4 years or 2 years. However, it is very important that for all of us to have faith in this system, that it be investigated to a reasonable standard. Like I said, it would have been reasonable to investigate Trump-Russia collusion for a week. That would have been reasonable.
Go. Right? If you're worried about, if you're in a swing state area, you don't trust your election board, go sign up to go be a poll worker next time. Yep. We talk about local politics on this show all the time. Picking up all those state seats is great. I believe we flipped 3 state legislatures to Republican. We flipped another governorship, and some of those we picked up a trifecta, which is that the Republicans control both the Senate, the House, the state House, the state Senate, and then the state governorship. That's great. Like you said, that's gerrymandering. That's good. That will also make sure that anything a Biden presidency and God forbid a Democrat-controlled federal legislature, anything that they might want to do to us, that can then be fought by the states as a more unified front. And I would like to see that. There is also a project that Mark Levin has been working on for like 10 years, which is a constitutional convention. You have to have 3/4 of the state legislatures vote that they want to get into a constitutional convention. I believe that they are somewhere between 5 and 10 states short of being able to trigger the Constitutional Convention, which would allow the states to come together outside of the federal government, and the states could, with no oversight from the federal government at all, the states could come together and create their own caucus to vote on and pass new amendments to the Constitution. And it would be whoever the states want to send to vote on that, they could do that. The federal Senate, the federal House, the presidency, the Supreme Court would have absolutely no say in it whatsoever. So that would be a great thing to start pushing for over the next 2 to 3 years with those freshly minted Republican states. There's stuff that can be done. Like I said, local politics has been the thing, guys. I'm lucky enough. Maybe not necessarily lucky, because I did choose to live where I live. And I had some options before I moved here to go to different places. And I chose to live in an area where I like how my state does more often than I don't on rights. I like the way my local area handles the elections. I trust it. I actually have a federal congressperson that I can be proud to vote for. He actually does do things that are worthwhile. He doesn't flip-flop like someone like a Lindsey Graham might do. My state government is, it's hit or miss on some things. But, the point being, I don't live in one of these areas where, like Philadelphia, like Jesus, I don't know how the hell you be a Republican in Philadelphia and trust anything. When you're talking about, do we trust the elections, Dyer? Well, it's a local question. That question's different depending on where you're at, because I absolutely 100% trust the presidential election in my local area that was run and maintained and counted by my local officials. I trusted that process. I look over at Philadelphia, I'm like, and Detroit and Peachtree, Alabama, and I look at those places, or Georgia. I look at those places and I don't trust those at all. But I don't fucking live there. There's nothing I can do about that. I would love to see maybe some federal legislation on that, but it's hard. So if you live in one of these areas where you can't trust your elections, you need to get out there and do something about your local politics, or you need to move. I think moving forward, now that we've seen how many people, if there was election fraud, I'm going to go ahead and say that there was less than 100,000 votes changed. I'm going to go put that out there. So their record
That's
votes.
unknowable.
It's unknowable, but record votes for Biden, there was still a lot of people. There was more people than not that did actually vote for Biden. More people than fraudulent people that voted for Biden. So there is a lot of Americans that looked at what's going on this summer and said, we want more of that. They looked at what the Democrats were doing the last 4 years, and they said, we want more of that. And I think moving forward, places like Portland, I don't even know if we're going to cover the riots anymore, other than just to laugh at them and pop some popcorn and maybe encourage them a little bit. If they want to burn down their own cities, go for it. If there's Republicans living there, I don't know what to tell you. You got to get the hell out of there. There's nothing for you there.
Agree.
And so I think that's what we need to do moving forward. Is if you're having problems in your local area, you need to get out of there, or you need to start doing something about it. If the Democrats want to, if they got, a 70, 80% majority in their area and they want to burn it down, they want to have off the charts minorities running around executing each other in the streets. They want to have off the charts overdose deaths and just poverty way above the national average, way worse poverty than some third world countries. If they want to do that in their districts, go for it. I don't fucking care anymore. I will clap for it and enjoy it. If there's Republicans there, they got to get out of there.
One of two things, or both things are true. That either the people in those areas the majority of the people living in that area want those things, or the majority didn't care enough to vote against what was going on. So the elections have consequences. So now you voted for your death and destruction where you live. So if that's not what you want, you know what you're going to get. You need to leave. Go to a place where they don't do that, and definitely don't vote for that policy in the new place you're going. But the only way those people are going to learn to vote against those Democratic policies is, unfortunately, for them to suffer through the consequences of those policies. They've been warned. They've seen. They clear-eyed made the decision to vote or not vote, and they're going to suffer the consequence for it. And I don't think there's anything we can do about that, or we should do about that.
Yeah. The founding fathers imagined the states as being little labs of democracies, and that they imagined the states could be places where the union could try different methods of governing and see how they worked, and then the states could learn from each other as to what worked and didn't work. And I think that could be a way of having what for a lot of other countries throughout history has been a socialist revolution that ultimately collapsed and destroyed them. That could be a way, and eventually the people realize, like, oh, oh heck, like that wasn't a good idea and it didn't work. But they only have one try. They only have one state to do that in. We got 50. If they want to try to have a Venezuela style or a Cuba style revolution in California or New York, fucking go for it.
It only works if we don't bail them out, though.
Yes, exactly. So whatever we can do to contain that. But if they want to burn down New York, go for it. If they want to burn down LA, go for it. They want to start hunting people down in Philadelphia or Portland, whatever, go for it. Conservatives, you got to get out of there. You can't be living there anymore. And you got all these business owners, who are there. Heart breaks for all that stuff, but you can't be running a small business in these areas. To happen,
but they decided. It wasn't our decision.
Yeah, if you've got a business down there that's not in one of these blue areas where they're burning stuff down, you need to have pulled out a long time ago. But you can't be giving your tax dollars to these people anymore. You can't be running a small business there, or even a large business. You need to be divesting from these states. You got to pull out. Go take your money to red areas and Texas and the big areas. Try to stop this exodus of the blues running out all over the rest of the country after they burn their states down. The conservatives should be the ones leaving first, not just staying there and trying to maintain this burning structure as the Democrats try to escape and flee the policies that they've created. No. The Republicans need to leave first and really make it an Atlas Shrugged moment where all of the business owners and I'm sure that there's Democrats that own businesses too. Business owning Democrats are probably a lot different than not business owning Democrats too. But if you are a business owner, or have the ability to move vast amounts of tax dollars to other states, you gotta be moving that stuff out of these states. You got 4 years to do it. I don't have the energy or motivation to look at these states and pity who's left in Portland or California or any of these places. It's what the people want. If you don't want that, you are fortunate. We still have the fortunate liberty of being able to move to 49 other states. Every other country doesn't have that luxury, especially throughout history. If they lost their state, that was it. It was over. You've got an opportunity to flee to your other Republican states and live under policies that aren't oppressive to you and to help keep those things going. Don't stay in these blue areas. I can't fool me once, but I'm not going to keep being sorry for you.
Yeah. So for White Lion, he said that the media is keeping people stupid in those areas. They don't even know what's going on. Yeah, that's true. But I know you are super intelligent. I'm not saying that satirically. I know the White Lion actually is really smart. But people who aren't as smart as you are still aware, like able to go online and watch videos. Like, I'm not super intelligent, and I know that communism is terrible and that the Democrat policies are destroying states. So they have the capability to understand what's going on, and even despite the barrier of the mainstream media trying to keep them stupid. So it doesn't absolve them of all responsibility for their own lives and who they're voting for or not voting at all for, just because the mainstream media is lying. Now, we still need to deal with that issue, but I gotta hate to break it to you right now. If Biden is president, it's not going to be addressed. It'll probably be supported.
Well, and I don't know what to do about the stupid people problem either. Maybe the more politically correct term would be the low information. That's what some people, I wouldn't call them that, but some people are calling them that. Low information voters, and it's problem. I don't know what to do about it. Well, I do know what to do about it. We've talked about this before. You
have a solution?
Yes. The penultimate solution, the solution before the final one, is that these are the broken people that Yuri Bezmenov talked about, where they are just, their minds are broken. They're not able to perceive reality. So it's not even that it is that they're dumb. They're just dumb in a different way. But they look at things and they can't see the cause and effect relationship between the policies that they're advocating for and the suffering that they're going through. They can't see why that's got a causal link to it, because they're ability to critically think has been completely destroyed. There is no way to fix that. Certainly not in the next 2 years or 4 years. And the way that Yuri Bezmenov described it was that they couldn't be fixed ever. And so my solution for that is that they are susceptible to propaganda, and we should be propagandizing them to at least make them safe. Again, they'll never be fixed. They'll never be fully awake human beings, but they can be made safe by propagandizing them into not being idiots and trying to go for socialist policies. But in general, that would require us to have too many institutions, which we just don't have. And I don't see. It's not really my problem if a stupid person's going to go keep putting his hand on the burner. We told them not to over and over again. We spent a lot of time and effort and emotion on telling them not to put their hand on the burner, and they keep doing it. And there's at some point you just got to kind of, okay, well, you know what? He won't stop putting his hand on the burner. I would like to live my life. And you just got to move out. You got to move off to a different house or a different state. You can't just there is a point where people have to live with their consequences of what they do, no matter how stupid they are. You can only help so many people. I know people like Dyer don't get this, but you're walking down the street or you're driving around the road and you see a dog. You're like, oh, it's a stray dog, and you'd love, maybe you stop and you pet it, and you'd love to take it home, but you just can't take them all home. Except for Dyer. Dyer takes them all home. But no, it's you look at something that's it's down on its luck. It's not doing real great. Now again, the dog he didn't have a agency to put himself in that situation, but the humans do. And so you look at all of these people, and it's like, well, maybe you're not super smart, but like you are a human being. Like you do have a frontal cortex. Like you have agency. You should take some responsibility for yourself, and you can't be wasting effort on feeling sorry for these people forever. I've talked about this before too, is the sympathy mining. They try to mine the sympathy out of you and get you to feel sorry for them. It's this victimhood mentality. And it's, we can't be feeding into that. We can't be feeding.
People who are voting for communism are like people standing in a line to get shot in the foot, and if they refuse to get out of that line, is it your responsibility to bandage them up afterwards?
No. Well, I think that the Trump economy. Just side note, fucking COVID is 100% the reason why Trump lost. That is, at the end of the day, you want to pin it down to one fucking thing, it was goddamn COVID. But the Trump economy had lifted so many categories, not just minorities, but lots and lots of just location of whites. But it was just large sections of America that we thought that Obama told us was forsaken. He said that those are never coming back. They're just going to be like that forever. Don't worry about it. Trump revitalized so many of these areas across all kinds of demographics and locations that we just never thought were coming back. And, the left wants to say that they've got the lock on minority votes. And, Trump got a record number of minority votes this time too, which is great. I wanted to see that. And that does give me some hope for the future. That does counter the narrative of the white nationalists that demographics are destiny and that these people will never learn. I'm trying to think of where I was going with that. It's just we had the Trump economy. We showed that this could work. We showed how we could revitalize all of these things. And, supposedly these elitist liberals, they want to help out the people, right? But the way that they want to help you out is by taking control of everything. They don't want you to be able to help yourself. But in theory, they want to help you. And Trump showed a way of being able to help people. He led them to the water. And then you had 70 million people that looked at that water and was like, I can't drink that water. I'm not drinking that water. I'm thirsty, but I'm not drinking that water. You can lead them to the water, but you can't make them drink it. Not yet. So it's the same thing with these people in California and all these places where, it's a bunch of idiots. It really is. You have, and if you look at the map, At least they're concentrated in a few areas. But you have all of these idiots packing themselves like sardines into these filthy cities, stacking themselves as high as they can possibly go into the clouds, and just living on top of each other, wading through shit, getting literal shit, getting typhoid, bringing back medieval diseases, and they're supposedly these enlightened people. Just living in these filthy conditions, breeding as much poverty and wealth inequality as possible around them. It is absolutely moronic. There's nothing you can do about it, though. There is nothing that we can do about it that is within the boundaries that the American Constitution gives us. I don't think that they deserve the sympathy. The only thing we can do is you got to abandon those areas, keep the red areas red, and just isolate those blue areas. And they have to be allowed to burn themselves down.
What you can do is use them as a cautionary tale. Now, part of the problem is that a lot of these Democrat states also have very diminished education systems where they're not teaching people the skills they need to critical think and to actually be functioning members of society. And that's what they're helping breed those types of idiots they're idiots not because the brain lacks the genetics to be smart. It's because they were not taught the skills to be smart, to actually view the world critically.
No one played him a record player.
Yeah, I played a record player. So if you want to stop the compounding problem of each generation being taught this way, you got to change the education system. Of course, that comes down to that state.
Now that we have...
What's that? Okay, so the people in that state are not going to vote for that because they're already corrupted, right? So use it as a cautionary tale to not let that happen to your state. Be involved in politics. Now, there's another category of people who are in those states. Like, take for instance my wife, right? She was not ever really tracking American politics. She followed the politics in her country, very well versed in that. But just recently, you've seen she bought a bunch of books. She started doing her own research, and now you've probably heard the evolution of her realizing what American politics is like. And so, I mean, there are some people that are unaware that can learn, but there's two kinds of people. Some of them can be saved, I think. But most of them can't be.
Yeah, for me, I've got a family member who lives in Chicago, and she's as far left orange man bad as you can be, and she lives right on Michigan Avenue. She's been watching the riots all summer from her window. She's scared of being able to walk anywhere because of the shutdown. She works in high-end retail, which is commission-based, and all the retail locations were shut down. Nobody's coming in when they are open. She usually works with exclusive clientele. And she lives this crazy lifestyle in Chicago, which she thinks is just great. But she doesn't have any concept of saving money. And so the economy shuts down for 6 months, and all of a sudden she's out of fucking money. And she's all as excited as she could possibly be to vote for the guy that wants to keep everything locked down. And she's getting to the point where my mom and dad are scared that she's going to have to abandon Chicago because she's absolutely out of money. And yet she's still so excited to have voted for Joe Biden. And now my mom's looking at well, hell, are we going to be able to can she live here? I was talking to my mom the other day. I was like,
no,
I haven't lived there in 11 years. You guys just remodeled the whole house. You don't have the capacity for a roommate anymore. There's no way. I've been gone for 11 years. You guys had that particular house without me for almost longer than you had me when I was in there. So I don't think that you guys really want to bring in another roommate. And she's brought that upon herself by being, again, just so excited to support all these Chicago policies, all the Chicago Democrats. She supports them, and she just doesn't understand why there is shootings all over the place. It's not safe for her to walk to work, all this stuff. And she doesn't understand why she doesn't have any concept of saving money. And then she is not sure. She's all upset about why the economy shut down. She thinks, Trump shut down the economy. Trump didn't shut down the Chicago economy. Chicago shut down the Chicago. The people that she voted for shut that down. And she can't get it. And now she might have, again, her one vote isn't swinging Chicago one way or the other, but the mentality that she has is the same thing that millions of other Chicagoans had, and they keep voting for these people, and they can't figure out why they're having problems. And now she's gotten to the point where she might actually have to, she might just be out of money. She might have gone from this like crazy lifestyle down to having to move to some rural town in flyover country with my parents and like live off of them. And I was like, Mom, you cannot fucking do that. Like, she has to live with those consequences. I was like, well, where's she going to live at? I was like, I don't know. Where are any of them going to live at? I really don't know. You got family members, do what you got to do with family members. But this idea, again, this is what the left always does. And you were saying this a little bit ago, or alluding to it, Dyer, was we can't be bailing out these states. These states can do whatever the fuck they want, but we can't be bailing them out. It can't be that these people just screw up over and over and over again. And then to fix the screw up, they steal money from the people who didn't screw stuff up. And it's like, you can't keep doing that. People got to learn at some point. And the only way to do that is start, laying down these hard policies of like, if they want to burn down all these different blue cities, burn it the fuck down. They want to have these crazy skyrocketing murder rates. Go ahead. You guys are just clearing out your voting base. They want to keep having just record poverty rates to the point where even if you do have excessive wealth inequality and the rich people don't have to live near the poor people, well, they've got so many poor people in these areas now. They're flooding into. They've got homeless encampments that are moving into the suburbs now. You had all of these low income crazy people over the summer trying to do riots in the rich suburbs and in the richer neighborhoods. That's got to be what happens. There has to be consequences. They have to live with them, and we just got to stop. You got to stop worrying about it and let even encourage it if that's what they want to do. Go for it.
Yeah. So now that we talked about the possible result of the election, let's talk about how we should react and how the left thinks we would react. Let's say how to be a graceful loser.
Yeah.
Let's call it that.
I thought that this was a pretty funny one to start off with. So, you got Reddit. It was funny. So they got a Toilet Paper USA, which is it's a far left. Well, it's on Reddit, so everything's far left. It's kind of like it's an attempt to be like a mocking conservatives kind of a thing. And they posted this thread, and Ted Pool pointed it out, and it was just great. They had to show the meme of the leftist screaming when Trump got elected. They had to show that picture to try to mock what Trump supporters are doing right now, because there is no videos or pictures of Trump supporters screaming like that. That's only on the left. And so to try to even begin to pretend that the right is half as crazy as what the left is, they have to use a picture of themselves in an attempt to try to describe what they wish that we were doing. We also had from Keemstar put out a quick video, which normally I wouldn't reference Keemstar on a show like this, but he had a pretty cogent video here that I'll play for you here real quick, and then we'll get into some discussion about it.
Well, it looks like they're going to call Biden as the winner of the 2020 election. And I've noticed right away all the Biden supporters are like spamming me with like memes and shit, like cry more and stuff like that. Bro, you don't get to do that. You guys fucking cried for 4 years straight. You guys literally made up this fucking conspiracy theory that the Trump administration and Trump worked with Russia to get elected. All bullshit, all fake. And you went on for like 2 years on that shit. Oh, the Ukraine thing, I mean, it was ridiculous. And when Trump won election in 2016, you guys were actually crying, all right? Not just like, haha, you're crying, like, no, tears running down your face crying. So, bit of a difference. Hutch tweeted at me, and he's like, still your president-elect. Bro, you're making fun of yourself, homie. You're the one that tweeted for 4 years, not my president. Look, I mean, when it's all said and done, which it's pretty much said and done, Joe Biden will be my president. You have respect for your president. You have respect for your country. And, you know, I fucking hope Joe does good for America if he ends up being the president and it's not challenged and it's not overturned. But this crybaby stuff, it's not a right thing. It's definitely a left thing. So don't try to spin it, boys and girls. Well, it looks like
he's absolutely right.
Yeah,
so
don't try to spin it.
Screaming, and they're doing screaming in the car videos, wailing in the streets, crying in hysterics on national television. We have actually a good video of this. If you want to play that, the compilation.
Yeah, I'll play it in the background with that sound.
Yeah. So they lost their freaking minds, and the Republicans have not done that. Now, calling for there to be investigation into fraud is not crying and wailing and going to hysterics. And after whatever the outcome of this, the legal challenges against the vote counts is, he will literally be our president. They say the not my hashtag, not my president. That was your hashtag. That's not our hashtag. That's you're representing yourself.
It's still funny watching him cry. So even Van Jones, like, so they don't just cry for when Trump won. They're crying over him losing, too. Van Jones was crying on CNN yesterday morning. It was like, why are you crying? You won. You had this is really funny moment on Friday. I believe it was Friday. The DNC caucus, so like all the major Democrats all across the country, they were on this giant conference call. And they were talking about like what had happened, like where are they going next, all this stuff. And you had, again, we talked about the House races that the Democrats lost in droves, and they weren't supposed to lose those. They were supposed to pick up seats. They weren't supposed to lose 8 seats. And you had some of these Democrats that lost their seats were actually crying on the call, and some of them were actually screaming at AOC and the squad, saying, "You guys need to stop saying socialist. Every time you say socialist, we lose the race." And so they're sitting there screaming at the squad, and the squad's screaming back that they're a bunch of white racists. And it was the funniest goddamn thing. And, we could still sit there and laugh about it. And again, they're the ones that are overly emotional about stuff. Yeah, like am I pissed? Yeah. Am I down? Yeah. Am I a little depressed this week? Yeah. Am I exhausted as fuck? Hell yeah. And again, it's fine to be mad. That's what I was talking about before with the this whole fraud idea is once we get past this, the next few weeks here, like it's just gonna have to be a thing that we move on from. We can't make that like the single defining thing. Don't forget about it. And it's okay to be fucking pissed about it. But like, we're not out there like screeching and crying and just having like incoherent
we have self-control,
Yeah.
And our reasoning isn't run by our emotions. It's run by principles.
Yeah. And at least when you're angry or upset, you at least have like constructed.
Words.
Yeah. You've got like something to like put with it. Yes, the words I was missing there was words. No, but you have like you said, it's principles. But you have reasoning for it. You have evidence to back it up. There's a lot of stuff that smells funny. And what the left does is they said all the last 4 years that the elections were completely rigged, and then somehow this year they're not rigged at all. That's hypocrisy. Again, the last 4 years, just like Gizmodo, they conceded that the entire election system was completely broken, and then when the election system went their way, well, we'll just pull that back. Like we'll be hypocrites. That's no problem. All of a sudden, the election system has completely flawless. And so when you say, hey, maybe you had fraud. Can we look into this? And the Democrats go, oh, you're just crybaby. You're so sad. You're just screeching. You're going I'm seeing all these memes of the upset 4chan man with the MAGA hat, and he's crying and red faced. They're posting that all over the place. And it's like, you've got reasoning behind what you do. Just because it might look the same, or they might think it looks the same as them just screeching and having no idea why they're
not
screeching.
Even close in appearance.
Yeah, it's not close. Don't let them get under your skin. That's what they want. They really want you to act the way that they did, because they hate it. It was so easy to get under their skin, and they absolutely deserved it. But don't let them flip the tables on you. They're not. I mean, it's a left-wing thing. It's not a right-wing thing.
Right, and I don't think we need to try to not act like that, because it doesn't come naturally. To lose your self-control like that and make yourself into such a fool over something not going your way, throwing a temper tantrum because you didn't get what you want. You know what? Life is full of lots of moments where you don't get what you want, all right? I think that most mature people are used to that and don't lose their fucking minds because they didn't get everything exactly the way they wanted it. Jeez,
yeah. Again, that's what I was saying earlier is move on from the fraud part. Over the next 4 years, there is battles to win. We lost that one, and it really fucking sucks. But don't do what the Democrats did, where you never moved on to the next battle. You just stayed focused on how upset you were that you lost this one, and you never made any progress on it. It's kind of crazy for being progressives. That's the rational thing to do. They're out there screaming and reeing. Go clean your gun. That's you feel bad about how everything went down. Go do some target practice.
Like
just go out there.
I can only clean my gun once a day. Like there's such thing as cleaning it too often.
Literally not. Cleanliness is next to godliness. What are you, an AK guy? Only once
no, it's
a
not
day.
that it's bad to clean it. It's like it's probably not good for your sanity.
Dai, how quick can you tear down your gun?
21 seconds. I can take it apart, put it back together.
That's crazy. I can take it apart after I watch a 21-minute YouTube video sometimes.
Yeah, but I wasn't the fastest. There was a guy in my basic training who did it in 19, so I lost.
Yeah. Once again, they. Like Keem said, don't turn that around on us, bro. That is not a right wing thing. That is a left wing thing. Yeah, you could be upset about it. It's fine to be upset about it. It's fine to talk to other conservatives about man, that sucks. I see a lot of this copium memes going around too, and it's oh, you're just saying that to cope. It's all right, everybody, when they don't get what they want, everyone's sad about it. That's fine. The difference between being a right person on the right and being a leftist is that when you're sad about not getting your way, we don't throw temper tantrums like a 2-year-old. That's the difference. Yeah, you're going to need some copium to cope with, not feeling real great. That's fine. But the copium for the left is just primal screeching. So, this idea that there is any kind of equivalence to it is not. There's nothing there. If you're, I made a tweet today and I got absolutely destroyed, flooded with I think I got 40 responses on it that were just leftist. I responded to somebody with a prominent account, and I responded early, and so I must have been near the top because I got 40 tweets back oh, you're just coping, oh, you're just, this is you, and it was a MAGA hat, the guy with the red face screeching, and he's crying with a MAGA hat on, and it's all this stuff, and it's just oh my god, what? There is no rationalizing with these people. Don't you get. You got some doggos, Dyer. They bite you sometimes. You know that they don't mean it, or they don't have any there's no meaning behind it. It's just a a reaction that they have, that there's no reason. Maybe like getting pinched by a machine or something like that, like something that can't think for itself and it injures you or it tries to hurt you. And it's like, ow, like, damn, like that hurt, that, like, it doesn't make me feel good. But like you look at it and you're like, well, like, I'm not going to get like super upset about it. Like, it didn't know that it was doing that. Maybe it was my fault for even putting my hand there. But like, the left comes at you, and it's not like a person that you respect has come up to you and is like, hey, Direwolf, I think that you're wrong about that, and I want you to reconsider that. No, you just have something screeching at you, and it's like, is it mad at me, or is it just making noises again? And that's the left right now. They're just making noises again. It doesn't really matter where it's directed at.
It's funny that they have to reference the memes about themselves to try to describe how we're acting, because they don't have any evidence of us actually acting that way. It's kind of like someone who's a communist trying to describe capitalism as bad by saying, capitalism is just bad, just as bad as communism. Huh. Oh, wait.
Yeah, what I have here. I'll try to see if I can find some of these. Yeah, it's just like a bunch of stuff that was coming at me. Yeah, I got 26 responses. And 2 likes. Ratioed is I was just like, hey, like, do you want to do some of that statistics?
Be gone from me, you soy boy beta cock. The transaction is complete.
The reason the media thinks that asking questions damages trust in the election is because we are doing the job that the news media is supposed to be doing, and we make them look like they are bad at their jobs, which they obviously are.
They are bad at their jobs. That's absolutely true. Thank you very much. Who was that?
Triumvirate. Thank you for the $10. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much. And that's absolutely true, 100%. Yeah, I mean, so if Biden wins, I think there's going to be not enough backlash to the mainstream media as would be good to happen. Like, they should be punished through the economy, right? People should know not to watch them, and people should not subscribe to them. They should lose money, and definitely lose money from lawsuits because of this. But I have a feeling that because Biden might be the president, that under him, they will not be held accountable nearly as much.
Well, they weren't being held accountable before either. So that's another issue that we have with the Republicans in the federal level, is that they did a lot of sitting there watching stuff. I'm more mad at the Republicans than I am absolutely at the legions of idiotic voters.
Republicans know better.
Yes, well, there's fewer of them, and they actually have, like, they should be held accountable. I'm looking for something dire. I'm not just looking at Foxes, just so you know.
That's all right. We want them to be better. Like, it's not just, it's not always, we're going to attack the Democrats because they're bad constantly. No, we actually need to hold our side accountable too, and they have not done anything close to, like, it's not like they haven't done enough. They haven't done anything to deal with online censorship. What?
See this?
No, your screen's small. Sorry, 1 second. What happens if President-elect dies? Inauguration. That's a valid question. All right, we need answers.
I want to know. Inquiring minds. Yeah, we need to. Another thing that we can do to really just focus on keeping the Republicans held accountable. If you have, again, I'm fortunate enough to have my federal congressmen and senators are not too bad, not too shabby. I think my senators could use some work. Maybe I'll call them a little bit more this time. But you need to be getting on those state representatives. The state representatives, they don't get anybody calling them. They're not like federal representatives. Like, nobody will call a state representative ever. Like, they'll be lucky if they get a call like once a month. Call them, tell them what you want to see, keep focused on what your local state's doing. At this point, the thing that will protect you from a Democrat fascist state. Again, they want to say that we're fascist. Fascism is when you have a unified state with the industrial powers, and I would consider the big tech to be the industrial powers of the modern age. Having a union between that and the state is it's got some fascist undertones. But if you want to be protected from the oppression of a Biden administration, the way that you do that is your state under the 10th Amendment has the power to protect you from that. So you need to be as focused as you possibly can on your local politics. You need to be talking to your local police department and your sheriff and going to your city council meetings and asking if the Biden administration will come to take my guns like they said that they want to. Will you guys be enforcing that? Will the sheriff be sending his guys out to enforce unconstitutional gun laws? Will you be doing that? You need to be pushing on your local officials to do that. The Biden may want to send out the National Guard, the military, to go collect those things, but the likely first step will be attempting to do that with your local police departments. They will try to weaponize your local police departments against you. You need to be at the city level figuring out whether or not your city is game for using the local police department and the sheriffs to come take your guns away. You need
the National Guard also first works for the state, and even though the president can federalize them,
yes.
They can resist and not enforce a unconstitutional edict that is not being supported by the state.
And then you need to be calling your state congressman. What are you going to do to protect our state from unconstitutional laws and edicts? What are you going to do? You need to be going to school board meetings if they ever have those again. Especially if you have kids, you need to be involved in the schools. And if you don't have kids, you might want to consider at least maybe going to a school board meeting every now and then. At least looking to see what's going on there. That is, we gotta start going real hard on local politics. We really, really do. That is where we're going to be able to defend ourselves on these things. That is, I think, as we laid out a few weeks ago, the peaceful boogaloo of just non-compliance from the city and state level. The way that you organize that is, the peaceful resistance is just having your state and your city have an understanding of what people's thresholds for doing and not doing stuff is. What is how unconstitutional does a federal law have to be before the state's not going to enforce it? How unconstitutional does the state law have to be before the city's not going to enforce it? You need to start figuring out what those thresholds are, or at the bare minimum, finding the names of people in like what their titles are that would be making those decisions, so that if something were to come up, you at least know who to talk to or who to come up to or who to point a finger at. It's not just, the ambiguous state is coming to take my rights. You need to know who to talk to fix those things. So you need to start becoming much more aware of your local politics.
You need to be that squeaky wheel that's letting them know what issues their voters care about, and also for both. It doesn't matter if that politician that represents you is Democrat or not, right? Still call them. Still let them know this is what I want, and this is what the guarantees I want from you. And it is not about tribes; it's about principles, right? So when Biden does something in this next 4 years, if he becomes president, it's not Biden man bad, no matter what he's doing. Look at what he does, and if it violates like one of your principles or that you hold dear, one of your beliefs, then you criticize. But if what he's doing is innocuous, like, I don't know, going golfing or eating at a restaurant, don't criticize him just because he's the other tribe, right? That's what they've been doing to Trump for the last 4 years. And not that I think you guys would do this, but it's important. That's how we deal with the other party, is to criticize them when they're wrong and applaud them when they're right.
Yep. The left gave us some really good examples of the worst things to not do and the worst ways to handle losing an election. Don't do what they do. Don't do what they do. And I would say even down to, well, we'll save that for another time. But yeah, the Joe Man bad. Don't fall into that trap. Don't fall into that trap. Again, specific things. You're going specific policies. We're with you all day. We'll be doing that for the next 4 years, I'm sure. But not every little thing. If Biden gets 2 scoops of ice cream, fucking fantastic. Which we actually already know what he got 2 fucking huge milkshakes, and the media was excited about it. Trump gets 2 scoops of ice cream, which is not a lot of ice cream. I regularly, if I go for ice cream, I'm going to get fucking 3 scoops. Fuck off. 2 scoops of ice cream is not a big deal. 2 full milkshakes is a lot of fucking milkshakes. And the media loves that stuff. And they were still talking about how bad it was that Orange Man got 2 scoops of ice cream. And they're so excited for Biden getting 2 giant milkshakes. Like, that's crazy. No normal person gets 2 milkshakes.
I'll have to be honest with you, but I don't care.
Yes. So, but don't do stuff like that. Now, there might be funny stuff. We can talk about it, but and we may bring up stuff like that. That's funny.
Name is a good question, right?
Yeah, but bring that stuff up in jest where it's funny, but don't get fixated on it. The left was like actually viscerally upset that Trump got 2 scoops of ice cream, and they also thought that it implied something like nefarious about his character and white supremacy. Like, I just think it's funny that Joe Biden got 2 fucking milkshakes. Like, normal people don't get 2 milkshakes.
Remember how upset they were about him having a taco bowl?
Yes. So you can make fun of him. Like, for fun, a few hours ago, Joe Biden had his quote unquote victory speech, and I swear to fucking God, you can go watch it. Joe Biden called his wife Joe.
Which
her
makes
name
me
is
concerned.
Jill. Her
Maybe
name
he
is
doesn't
Jill.
know that he is Joe.
He introduced her as his wife Joe. This was 2 hours ago.
I have never once introduced my wife as my actual name.
This is my wife, Direwolf.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're going to fucking make fun of that. And, yeah, that does imply that he's got some mental decline. It doesn't necessarily imply that he's a white supremacist. Like, that's
based on the standard they set with Trump.
No, I mean, if you want to get Trump's 2 scoops of ice cream and be like, well, maybe his cholesterol's a little bit high, that's a valid conclusion. I want to look at Joe Biden calling his wife Joe and say, maybe he's got a little dementia. That's a valid conclusion. Looking at Trump getting 2 scoops of ice cream and being like, God damn, he must be a fascist. Only fascists get 2 scoops of ice cream, which the left actually did that, unironically believed that. That's not a valid conclusion. Saying, well, Biden can't string a sentence together, so he's in bed with China. Those aren't valid conclusions. Now, looking at the Hunter Biden laptop, you can say, oh, wow, I think maybe Biden's in bed with China. That's a valid conclusion. But make sure that there's a cause and effect relationship between the things that you're talking about. Don't just screech about every time Biden takes a breath, which, again, I don't think we're going to tell you that, but just to... I think it's good to kind of...
That's not our audience.
What's that?
That's not the way our audience.
Yeah, but it's good to think through some of this stuff, because I think that I know I don't want to act like a leftist, because I know that they want me to act like they did, because they felt so bad for themselves the last 4 years, and they want us to feel even a fraction of that, which I don't think that we're going to feel. Again, just that primal rage that they had. But I think it's good to at least talk through, okay, like, what are the specifics of what they did, and how do those specifically map onto our current situation, so that we can better rationalize and understand that? Because we are capable of rational thought. All of us are human. Something happens, you get real viscerally angry about it. You're like, God damn, that guy fucking cut me off on the road. But you have that flash of anger, and then you rationalize and calm down and move on. The left is not capable of that. So talking through these situations that mirror how the left was reacting to stuff, I think that's a good way to help continue with the audience rationalizing it, and to help you guys have conversations with the other conservatives, or the mythical moderate, or the leftists in your life. Of we're upset. Why wouldn't we be? But I'm not dropping to my knees, sobbing and screeching to the sky. Like, there's a difference.
Yes, absolutely. They would love for us to act like them to justify their behavior, right? They would love for us to actually be going out in the streets and rioting like they do, so that they would be justified in what they do, but we don't. They like to pretend that we do.
I can't stress this enough. Don't go riot. I would even say don't go protest any of this stuff. Like, if you want to protest specific policies later on, I do not recommend, if you live in one of these swing states, to go protest in front of the state house or something like that. It's not going to do anything. They are not going to just switch a state because a bunch of people went out there and protested. The bunch of people telling the state which way the state to go was the vote. The protest is not going to do anything for that one way or the other. I would say that you're wasting your time, and there is better places to put your effort.
Yep. All right. So, do we have another story?
Mostly just like what to expect from a Biden presidency. Taxes, probably a war. I know my taxes, when the Trump tax cuts go out, I'm probably going to lose like $3,000 to $4,000 a year.
I'm gonna lose a lot.
I'm really excited about.
I'm losing the taxed up money, but also they're going to not give us any raises for inflation, which is nice.
Yeah. And then
under Obama, they cut our housing allotment, so it's not part of our pay necessarily. Is that it's not contractually required, but they do have an allotment for paying for housing, and they reduced it below the average housing cost of the area, so it doesn't pay rent.
Yeah. There'll be a lot of memeable gaffes. There'll be a lot of new fun words that Biden will make up that are not just covfefe. And the left got a lot of traction out of covfefe, and the right picked it up and loved it.
Yeah.
So, there'll be a lot more of that stuff. Probably gonna have a lot of Kamala influence, which will be fun. We're going to get more burdensome regulation with the energy industry. We will probably not stem the tide of violence from Antifa. More stuff, Dyer?
Yeah, so on the concept of getting involved in your local politics, I was going to talk to him about what the decision I'm thinking about making. I think that it would be a good idea for me.
I don't know. Do you want to talk about that on the stream?
Maybe not. You're right. We'll talk about it.
Maybe we'll put a pin on that.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're definitely going to see probably a lot more regulation in a lot of areas. So the left likes to pass regulations that hurt industry, but really have no practical benefit, and they do it because it is them saying they're doing something to their progressive voters. Like, oh, we solved global warming by putting this cap on emissions on coal plants that requires a special piece of equipment that's super expensive and hard to get, that not enough of them are made. So the end result is that there's going to be less coal plants, but it didn't really reduce any pollution. It wouldn't, it wasn't actually effective, other than unless you're counting the destruction of some of our power grid as producing less pollution, right? And then, so they'll do policies like that ends up hurting our power industry, our economy, and it's just so they can do the virtue signal, right? And that's why the Democrats tend to put on so much regulation. Obama and Biden together set a record for the most regulations passed by the bureaucracy per year during the presidencies, the two terms. Trump, by comparison, undid a lot of them, but not all of them. So we have that to look forward to. There's a lot more new rules to deal with.
Yeah. And then on the local level, you got states like Pennsylvania, where we'll see what the we'll see what Biden can do with a pen and a phone on day one, and start closing down some of these wells. I would expect that your gas prices are going to go up over the next 4 years, probably by at least $1. We've been sticking around a good $2 average for the last 5 years. I'd expect that to go up a full $1. Pennsylvania, you're going to have the 95% of the landmass of Pennsylvania is going to be unemployed, just because they'll close down oil areas, which will close down local businesses that support oil workers, which will have a cascade effect all across Pennsylvania.
Whose fault is that?
Well,
Fox?
that's the. I don't know about whose fault it is, but it's the fucking problem of Pennsylvanians. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
And so that's one of those things where you're gonna have to deal with the consequences of that sort of thing. And maybe there's some truck deliveries where trucking companies decide we're not sending food into the main cities, something like that. Maybe all of the unemployed oil workers go and riot in Philadelphia. Maybe something like that happens. I don't know. I'm not making a recommendation. I'm just saying, if these people, I don't. You're gonna have a lot of people who are going to be very, very devastated by some of these policies, and they need to get the hell out of these states, or they need to figure out a way that they can get these states to flip back red and have rational policies for them. Maybe they need to be organizing group lawsuits for the states against the federal government. Who knows what the solutions are, but you're going to have a lot of people that are going to have to deal with these problems, and I think that they really do need to deal with them. They need to we've gone on for too long. The only way that we got here is that the Democrats were incremental enough that it didn't hurt real bad, or they were able to, if it did hurt bad, they were able to redirect where people thought the pain was coming from so that we didn't realize it was coming from them. There needs to be, because of what Trump did with the economy, it was very obvious that the pain and slowness that we'd been experiencing in the economy for the last 2 decades have been Democrat created, or at least establishment created. And Trump proved that there was a different way. And when that reverses, I think it's going to be a lot more clear where that pain's coming from, and people are going to have to do something about it. I don't know what that is, and that isn't like a dog whistle for like revolution or something like that. But no, you need to go out there and figure out what you need to do on your state and city and local level. And I don't know what the solution is, but people have to actually, they have to experience the pain that they want to inflict on others. And the people that are having the pain inflicted on them, they have to be able to rationalize where that pain's coming from. And so I don't know. Yeah, it's gonna suck. It's gonna suck for those Pennsylvania people, but I don't have to worry about my area just because that's what we're down to. It's everything's gonna have to be local now. If you make a commitment to everything being local for you, you're gonna do just fine. Your family's gonna do just fine, and your locality is gonna do just fine. If everything you focus on is getting your local community in a situation where it is prepared to defend your rights. Preferably through civil matters. And if you're in an area where that's not possible, you need to fucking move.
Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's your responsibility, right?
Yeah.
If you stay in a bad situation where you don't have rights and you don't have freedoms and you're not protected, it's bad that the state's doing that to you. It should be fixed, but in the end, it is your responsibility to protect yourself and your family.
Yeah, what could Pennsylvania do? Same thing that Virginia might be able to do is you got 95% of your counties are red, and they're being lorded over by these giant cities of just idiots packing themselves like sardines into mile-high skyscrapers and living in each other's shit. Again, all literal statements. Maybe they should secede. Let's see some. If you have 95% of your counties in your state that want to go a different direction, form your own state. That it's not unprecedented. It hasn't happened in the modern era, or at least in the information age. But maybe that's the solution for Pennsylvania. Maybe they need a West Pennsylvania, and it sounds kind of radical, but it's a lot less radical than having to go to war over something, or having a civil war, or just having large swaths of America are just toasted, and it's just okay. Well, I guess all these people just have to die because they're in such poverty, or you're going to become some kind of serf class to these elites in the cities. No, you can say no. We're not going to be sending food shipments into Philadelphia anymore. We're not going to accept from on high from the state legislature anymore. We're gonna go ahead and form our own new state on this because we can't take it. That could be a solution, and maybe that's something that needs to be explored more.
Yep, definitely a possibility.
Yeah, the Civil War could just be a bunch of states turn into more states. The Democrats want to add more states, so it's not really that crazy. Why not have some Republican states flip off?
Yeah, they've been talking about adding a few different states, so this is not a crazy idea. But definitely, I mean, if most of the landmass of the state is being given policies they're being dictated by a very small, basically a couple cities.
Yeah.
Very small portion of the state.
Same thing for California. You got most of California is red as hell. They want to do something. They want to do something about it. They've been talking about doing new California states for a while. Fucking do it. Fucking do it.
Yep. Do it.
That's going to have to be the solution here as we're getting some issues. One of the things that was nice about the states back at the beginning is it kept politics more local to smaller groups of people, and the republic was not designed with this many people in mind. I think that we're clearly at the breaking points of some of these. Now, I think that the republic can handle as many states as you can stuff into it. And in fact, it might work, quote unquote, better with more states because you're going to have less and less ability to get consensus, which means the federal government's going to be able to have less and less power. But on the state level, which the state should be the thing most influencing your day-to-day life, if your state, not the state, if you're having problems in your main state right now, maybe there's too big of a population there. Maybe it's time to start having some split movements. Again, we had West Virginia used to be part of Virginia. I don't see why we can't keep doing that. There's really no reason why we shouldn't. It's just people can't imagine that. Maybe people will start being able to imagine that.
Yeah, I think I see a huge benefit in it, honestly. But yeah, there's gonna be a hell of a ride for the next 4 years. I'm sure we're gonna have to deal with a lot of that. But the best way to protect yourself is to make sure that you are involved in your local politics, and that you get out of the areas that are not willing to protect you. Like, I would not want to go back to California right now, unless they do split into two countries where they have a red one, or two states rather, where they have one that will protect your rights and one that won't. Maybe I'll go to North California then.
New California Republic.
Yeah, I'll do it.
I'll make a state just for foxes.
There's enough foxes to put in the state.
Yes. Some good news is...
Oh, a wolf.
Wolves are coming back. Wolves won the election. In Colorado, this is a fun side story. Colorado, they had a measure on the ballot where they're going to try to reintroduce gray wolves into the wild of Colorado. And they said all the wolf sanctuaries are very excited about it. The people approved the measure, and so over the next 2 to 4 years, they will start reintroducing gray wolves. They said that there will be paws on the ground in 2 years. Which is adorable. Adorable way to put it. So, other people might have... Howitzer sent us 4 ice creams. Jesus Christ, I'm a fucking fascist. That's too many ice creams.
Yeah, you're definitely a fascist.
Definitely.
Hey, so there's also another story about ballot measures. California... despite them voting for Democrats, they did actually vote down the Prop, I believe, 16 to remove the civil rights protections against, laws that affect certain races or benefit certain races over others.
Yes, it was the one that removed the Civil Rights Act from the state, which is insane.
Yeah, instead of just making it like I'm against affirmative action, but instead of just saying that affirmative action is permitted under that law, they decided to remove the entire law, opening up the possibility for any race to have policies that benefit it. It'd be okay.
Yeah. So that was good. That was a concern to see how far left California would go, but we can see that they maybe push back on that. Howitzer, thank you for the 9 lemons and the 5th ice cream. It's nice.
Wow. I think I should probably empty the chest. What do you think?
Go for it. Also, Lycan Senji on YouTube says, "Farewell, thee well, Dyer. May we meet again in God's kingdom." So I think he's going to bed.
Oh, good night. That was rather dramatic. Good night, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
As as we're reading on the screen here too, Direwolf is going to have to get deployed to Colorado probably. He's going to have to go roam the forests.
Yes.
The wolf.
I wonder what Willow would do if I just dropped her off in the forest and let her go.
She'd probably have you watched Game of Thrones?
Yes.
She'd probably be like the Daenerys, where she's on the outs for 6 seasons, and then by the 8th season she like destroys half of the country with dragonfire. She's like slowly gathers her strength until she just takes everything over. That would be Willow. She's good.
Yeah, probably. I went hunting with her once in a unfamiliar foresty area, and she stuck with me on the way out. But then as soon as I turned back on the path to start going back home, she sprinted off, and she was waiting for me a long walk later at the car. She remembered the entire path and was just waiting for me.
What'd you hunt with her?
Coyotes.
You hunted coyotes with a wolf?
So the reason why was because they were killing my workmates' animals on a regular basis.
Dire.
So
coyotes are good boys.
they are, except for that they killed like a bunch of animals. It was getting ridiculous.
Dire.
And the fence wasn't working.
Well, they were not
at all.
They were. You stopped it from dragging kids over the border. Whole
Yes,
humans.
this is to stop the human trafficking.
Yes. I know when I was looking at one of my blasters I was purchasing recently, they told me it was it's good if you want to do target shooting, or you take it out behind the barn or whatever and take care of a coyote. And I was like, oh no. I was like, not the coyotes. Like, leave the coyotes alone. And he's like, oh. I was like, yeah.
Oh.
I was like, I wouldn't shoot one of those. Jesus.
Just for that story. Also, it was all at night, so she ran back in pitch black too. I had night vision goggles on, but she didn't. Obviously. I don't know.
Did you just admit to? Maybe you shouldn't be admitting to using.
No, they were not government issued.
Okay.
Don't do that. They do have non-government issued night vision goggles.
I got to imagine that a regular sized coyote is bigger than Willow.
No, about here they're about the same size. But Willow is like...
She's very small.
She is, for a wolf.
For a wolf, yeah.
Don't worry, she's tough.
Yeah. Just growls.
I do, in retrospect, I think it probably wasn't wise to bring her because I think it scares the coyotes off, the scent of her.
Well, isn't that like part of the point of like you could have just scared off the coyotes instead of killing them?
Well, I guess I could have loaned my wolf to my workmate. That would have been fun. She would have had a huge forest to live in. But she'd probably kill his animals.
What about the just not in my backyard right there. You could have had the I bet you that cat guy doesn't have problems with coyotes.
Not at all. Not at all. One of the guys I work with is actually owns a big cat sanctuary.
Which, if you watched Tiger King on Netflix with everybody else earlier this year,
oh, so you know him.
Yes, all the all the big cat guys know each other. So
exactly. All right. Hey, so I think that's it for the show, right?
Yeah, I think that's about all we got. I guess we'll see where we come up with next week. Like I said, just I think that the British may take a note out of the British page or British book this time is a page. There we go. From the British is just keep calm and carry on. We'll keep marching forward. There was keep an eye on Georgia. I think that there was some interesting things that happened that are good for us in the long run. I think that there's a lot of things that happened that were bad for us in the long run, but dropping to your knees and screeching to the skies is not going to help anything. So
it does nothing.
Doesn't do
positive.
That.
It's just a waste of energy.
Yep.
I don't know how to deal with people who cry. It really, I don't know what to do with that.
Have you tried?
I've had people
slapping
cry
them?
in my office, and I'm like, I'm gonna need you to come back once you've got yourself together. I can't talk to you right now.
Displays of emotion make Dyer uncomfortable.
What? What am I supposed to say to that?
Some of the stories you've told me, and like the thing that makes you uncomfortable is somebody crying.
No, it's not that I'm uncomfortable. Like, I don't know what am I supposed to tell you? Feel better? Sorry about that. Get back to work, maybe. I'm kidding. I'm not completely heartless, only mostly. All right, so I'll see you guys on Wednesday for game stream. Hopefully,
I guess. For the game stream, we're gonna be counting ballots. Oh,
it's a ballot counting simulator.
yeah.
There's a glitch in it though. All right, we'll see you guys later. Dire Wolf out.
I'm gonna write a financial program for my company that just like accidentally tabulates all the money to me. I think I just feel like it's a glitch, bro.
Saying it's a glitch makes it okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a problem. See